Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be reviewing this trim router. I've been needing one for a while. Haven't wanted to spend the money for like a DeWalt, anything like that. I thought about getting one of those off-brand DeWalts that takes my batteries, but I was like, you know what? This seems like a good deal. Let's do it. So I bought it. This is the ThinkWork 1.2 or 1.1.25 or 1.25 HP variable speed compact router. This is the PCR800W. Had pretty good reviews. I don't need anything to be super fancy. I did need it for a project that I'm trying to fix that I screwed up, which I'll show you that in a minute. And so yeah, let's open it. Okay. Right off the bat, has its own little case. Nothing else in the box. Set that to the side. These are some router bits that it came with. And of course, they're just all in there. I got no idea why it included sandpaper pads, but we can use them nonetheless. So right off the bat, you don't look too horrible. Got a huge selection. So let's get to this bad boy there. Okay, so it has an edge guide. Probably won't use that. This is the knobs and stuff. Looks like it's got I guess that's some replacement parts, brushes maybe. Ooh, right off the bat, this thing has got some heft to it. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah. Yeah, if you get it a certain way, it's kind of, yeah, see, I don't like that. I guess you just got to make sure you're not. Okay, so clamp it down. That doesn't make any sense. So I thought maybe this allowed you to move the bearing, because if you can tell, it's got these grooves right here, and it's got this gear that it slides up and down on. I guess it's to give you better adjustments without, but it's kind of sticky. See that? That's not me, that's this thing. And then figured it'd have a dial so you can make micro adjustments. The plate is pretty solid. Doesn't seem like it's gonna go anywhere. Now, I thought, I read this has, it was a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. Let's see what that's for. Yeah, I don't see a reducer. I thought the listing said it had a reducer. This I'm super excited for. I gotta look at the manual and see exactly how this works. All right, so I figured out how this goes on. It's actually pretty simple. So try to get it at an angle here where you can see it. So this little piece right here slides down in there. You can adjust your depth. I will say they don't feel very secure. And this piece right here, you tighten this up. Right, you can actually take this off and I can show you a better look. So you tighten this up, comes off, has micro adjustments. You can see this right here. That allows you to pull in. See how it's going in and out. All right. Of course, I'm holding it back so you can see it. And then once you get it to the depth that you want, you just tighten it up. I'm tightening it as much up as I can with my hand. I don't want to get a pair of pliers because I don't want to over tighten it, but I got a feeling this is going to come loose with first use. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be surprised. But this piece sits above the router bit and then is your depth gauge basically. So initial thoughts, not bad considering I only paid $49 for it. It's not bad. But let's put it to the test. I don't like this system. So, does it sit upright? Yes, it does wobble a little bit, but you know, just make sure it's not plugged in. All right, so let's put it to the test. So this is probably my error. I'm trying to do something this thing is probably not meant to do, and as you can see, I'm trying to flush trim this edge. Well, it has turned into a disaster. So first off, this bit that I bought off Amazon is a piece of junk. You see this? First use. First use. I'm going to see if I can't put the bearing back in there and continue on. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not even sure this thing is level. And this thing is hot too. Like, it's super hot. Almost too hot to touch. Just out of that few minutes that I was using it. Again, probably not meant for this, but as you can tell, these are small pieces. Trying to do this with my big router is gonna be a disaster. Let me see if this edge is even level. So we got the bearing taken off. Let's see. Yeah, it's not level. So I bet I've bent it, but it shouldn't bend. Shouldn't bend like this. I mean, it's not like I was putting a ton of pressure on it. So I guess this project is on hold until I get a better bit. God, this sucks. All right. Well, let's try to try to put an edge on something, right? I'll just pick some scrap wood and we'll put a round over on it and see how it works. Sound like a plan? Sounds like a plan. So for roundovers and stuff like that, works just fine. Not a bad little unit. So you can't make micro adjustments with this, which is fine. It is what it is. The chuck, I don't like the 2-wrench system. That's why they stopped using it. Everybody goes to a push button now. Super nice. So you're gonna have to deal with that, which, as you can see, is a pain in the ass. It does get quite hot. I will say that it does get quite hot. Again, almost too hot to hold. Getting there. If you're using this for like an hour, I imagine this thing would be smoking. So I don't like how, if you can see, dust has gotten trapped in here. I don't know. They should have included a different piece, because you put the edge guide in this. They should have included a different piece, or they should have redone the edge guide to where it didn't have to be inside of this. Does that make sense? So, because dust is going to get trapped in there, and eventually you're not going to be able to see through it. And you'll have to take it apart, which is just 4 screws. Take it apart, bada bing, bada boom. The edge guide, or depth guide rather, I think is what it technically is. I have not tested out. I was going to test it out on this bit, but that bit's not even level. It goes right here. Just for roundovers, like I said, just for roundovers, this thing's going to work great. More complicated things like what I'm trying to do, I could have used a bigger base. And I imagine you can buy one. If not, it'd be very easy to make. You just go to Home Depot, get some plexiglass, and make it a little bit wider. That's what I would have preferred, as a wider base with this piece right here. Because you could probably tell I was getting it off level. This is the first trim router that I've ever used. I've always had big routers. Again, all in all, pretty decent router for the money. Let's back it up there. So initially, I thought this was a decent router for the money, but through further usage, can be all right. So basically, in my honest opinion, this thing will not handle anything deeper than about 1/4 of an inch. As you can see on this bench right here, I've got a 1/4 inch chamfer, or sorry, a 1/2 inch chamfer all the way around. I initially tried to do this with this trim router just to test it and use it. It did not go very well. I will say that it did not go very well. It had a really hard time digging into the wood. It had a hard time continuing to dig into the wood. I tried doing it with smaller passes at first. It still bogged down as soon as it got to this 1/2 inch. So I ended up having to take the bit out. Some of you might say it was the bit, not, being dull. It was a brand new bit from Lowe's, and I put it in my skill router, and it worked just fine. So it wasn't the bit, it was this. The router bit that I was using was just fine. So if you intend on doing anything deeper than, I would say, about 1/4 of an inch, this is not the trim router for you. You know, of course, that's also going to vary with the width of the bit. For example, if you're trying to do 1/2 inch wide grooves, for some T-tracks or something, I probably wouldn't worry about this router. But if you want to do some 1/4 inch roundovers, 1/4 inch chamfers, 1/4 inch grooves, whatever, it's going to be fun. But just know that it has some limitations. And if you're interested about this build video will be coming out shortly. I just finished filming, finished building, so that's on its way. It's not going to be a DeWalt. It's not going to be, a Bosch. But it'll get the job done, nonetheless. Again, if you're using it for hours, probably not the router for you. If you're just doing roundovers, maybe some designs in wood, like you're routing out, stencils or something, which I'm eventually going to do. Maybe not. We'll have to see. That's quite a few months down the road whenever I get into that. If I had to give it a star rating, 3.5 stars. 1 star because of the way you have to tighten it. 1/2 star for the depth gauge, and then 1 star for this cheap, flimsy piece of crap edge guide. Have a good day, guys. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, share. Really help me out grow the channel. Be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video.